We all have that one person who takes things at game nights a little too seriously and ends up turning the challenges into real fights. Well, if we put everyone like that on a leaderboard, there's only one man to take first place, Ramzan Kadyrov.
In 2014, Kadyrov founded the Akhmat MMA Fight Club, a state-of-the-art training facility owned and funded by the Chechnyan government and a central figure of Kadyrov's propaganda.
No thanks to him, being an MMA fighter in the Republic of Chechnya is becoming less of a fun hobby, if you could ever call it that, and more of an audition for Fast and Furious dictator drift. In today's video, we'll be answering one important question. Why exactly is Chechnya's MMA culture becoming another army academy? Let's find out. First, a brief insight into the Republic might help. Chechnya Republic is that one kid who has always had to fight for everything they want, from fighting to stay in existence after the fall of the Soviet Union to battling for independence from Russia. The little nation is no stranger to wars. Perhaps this explains why they are so invested in martial arts.
Chechnya had fallen into civil war between pro-independence and pro-Russian factions.
After the Second Chechen War between 1999 and 2009, Chechnya came under the leadership of Akhmat Kadyrov. To them, this was like taking several steps back in their fight for independence from Russia, as Akhmat soon switched sides and joined forces with Russia as an ally.
Bei der Ehrentribüne detoniert ein Sprengsatz. Präsident Kadyrov wird verwundet und stirbt später an den Folgen seiner Verletzungen. Unter den Toten ist auch der Staatsratsvorsitzende Hussein Isayev.
After his death, he was succeeded by Ramzan Kadyrov, who is our focus for today. Ever since he got into power, Ramzan Kadyrov has been very vocal about his love, or obsession, for combat sports. To him, it's a symbol of the strength men possess, only that he is characterized by army tanks and brute force. Honestly, he's like a mix of Muhammad Ali, James Bond, and John Wick all rolled into one. Kadyrov's love for MMA was so intense that he decided to start his own MMA organization in 2014, known as Fight Club Akhmat, or Akhmat MMA, named after his father. As with all good things, the original plan was to use the club as a training center for young boxing talents. You know, a little catch them young tag was all it had in mind. The club grew in both size and popularity, and by the end of 2016, it was impossible to name 5 sports clubs in Russia without mentioning it. However, this popularity soon caused a shift in this angelic mission. As more fighters joined the club, it began to seem as though they were being trained for something else. Take Magomed Ankalaev, for example. The Russian-born fighter is a light heavyweight professional with an impressive record of 19 MMA wins against just 1 loss, with 10 of those wins being by knockout alone. Expectedly, he is currently number 1 in the UFC light heavyweight rankings. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be locked in a room full of sweaty gym bros without ventilation than be locked in a duel with this guy. Anyway, with all of his success, it was no secret that his entire career was being funded by Ramzan Kadyrov. Ever since he began his career, Magomed has only trained at Akhmat Club, which not only serves as his training center, but also as a resource base. His career has been heavily monitored by Kadyrov himself. In 2022, after Magomed lost a match to Jan Blachowicz, Kadyrov made up a storm in his angry outburst over what he believed should have been a win for the Russian fighter, going as far as demanding that the belt be returned to Magomed.
Ladies and gentlemen, this contest is declared a split draw.
If you're still not convinced, there are even more fighters turned soldiers on Kadyrov's list. The late Abdul Karim Edilov was one of those. A former martial artist in the light heavyweight division, Edilov used to compete in the Ultimate Fighting Championships before crossing over to Absolute Championships Akhmat in 2018. This brought him close to Kadyrov, who had already begun setting eyes on him, and eventually, he became the vice president of Chechnya. Now, here is where things get very suspicious. At the break of the war between Russia and Ukraine in 2022, Edilov was spotted in a video with Kadyrov, armed with a machine gun and a tactical vest packed with extra ammunition. Beside him was Kadyrov's right-hand man, Abuzayed Vismuradov, who served both as an army general and coordinator of Kadyrov's martial arts club. The video, which was released to restate Chechnya's loyalty to Russia, left many tongues wagging. And like us, many people just wanted to know one thing: why are so many important MMA fighters involved in Kadyrov's propaganda moves? Similarly, Kamaru Usman, the former UFC welterweight champion, has found himself in controversial ties with Kadyrov. The internet went wild when photos emerged of Usman, along with fellow UFC stars Henry Cejudo and Justin Gaethje, testing out firearms at a military facility in Chechnya. It's not every day you see UFC champions swapping punches for rocket launchers, right? Usman has attended several lavish celebrations hosted by Kadyrov for his children. Imagine being invited to a party where the entertainment includes not just cake and balloons, but also military parades and perhaps a demonstration of how to handle an AK-47. It's like if Disney World had a combat zone theme park, Usman must have thought. This also raised eyebrows as to what extent the relationship between the two artists goes. Of course, Usman's ties to Kadyrov haven't gone unnoticed. The U.S. State Department has raised eyebrows over these interactions, reminding everyone that Kadyrov is not exactly known for his warm and fuzzy policies, unless you count his love for MMA fighters as fuzzy. Or how do we explain our UFC champions hanging out with a guy who's on a sanctions list? Khamzat Chimaev is yet another fighter who seems to have been caught in Kadyrov's web. As with other martial artists in the club, Chimaev boasts of a mixed martial arts record of 14 wins out of 14 fights, 6 of which were by knockout. So in case you're hoping to be scoured by Kadyrov one of these days, keep in mind that he's only attracted to successful fighters. The ties between both MMA enthusiasts are so intense that it was rumored that Kadyrov convinced Chimaev not to resign when the latter wanted to in 2021. Although others might argue that Kadyrov employed some unorthodox methods in his convincing. But hey, we listen and we don't judge. Chimaev has also been instrumental in transforming Kadyrov's sons into MMA beasts themselves. In 2022, Chimaev seemed to finally show open solidarity with the Chechnya warlord when he appeared alongside him in a live video where Kadyrov threatened to eliminate a minor Chechen dissident for calling out his repressive rule. For those who love his fighting style, it was like the betrayal of Julius Caesar all over again. The media was heavy with criticisms for the martial artist, but it certainly didn't do much to deter him as he continued to appear in sparring session videos and social events with the controversial leader. Speaking of Kadyrov's children, there is no doubt that Kadyrov's army hunting spares no one, not even his family members. Out of Kadyrov's 6 sons, 3 of them have become martial artists. Ali Kadyrov started in mixed martial arts at a very young age, though how voluntary his interest was remains a very questionable topic. At just 16 years old, he made his professional debut in a fight that many observers deemed more of a spectacle than a legitimate competition. After all, when your father is a notorious warlord, the stakes and the rules are a bit different. Ali's debut fight took place under the Absolute Championship Ahmad, an organization owned by none other than his father. In reality, the event felt less like a sporting match and more like a Kadyrov family reunion with a side of combat. With coaches like MMA superstar Khamzat Chimaev in his corner, Ali was practically handed a victory on a silver platter. It's safe to say that if there were ever a most likely to succeed award in Chechen MMA, it would likely go to him. No contest. Ali's fights serve as propaganda tools for the Kadyrov regime. Each victory is broadcast far and wide, showcasing not just Ali's skills, but also Kadyrov's influence over the sport. When your dad is both your coach and commander-in-chief, it's hard not to feel like you're part of a live-action video game where winning means more than just bragging rights. It means political capital. Now, if there's one thing that increases suspicion around the warlord, it'll be his social media moves. If there's one thing Kadyrov understands, it's how to use social media to one's advantage. What started with the Instagram posts of his private zoo with his different collection of animals soon changed into selfies with different MMA fighters, maybe because they suit his ideology of big, bad, and brave. Exactly the kind of image he wants for himself. With a penchant for posting everything from motivational speeches to videos of him flexing his muscles, Kadyrov has mastered the art of using platforms like Instagram and Telegram to project power and influence. From sparring sessions to poses with celebrity wrestlers, not many Instagram pages match his in terms of coordination and detailing. His plan is simple yet effective: elevate MMA fighters to celebrity status while embedding them within the military framework. To him, fighters are not just athletes, but are future soldiers ready to defend Chechnya and his regime. After all, nothing says "I love my country" like a roundhouse kick followed by a march into battle. However, while Kadyrov dreams of making Chechnya the next Las Vegas of MMA, he faces media sanctions from the West due to his notorious human rights record. Yet, this only adds to his allure among his supporters, who see him as a defiant leader standing up against foreign oppression. One thing is clear though: Kadyrov has mastered the art of sports washing, using sports to distract from political issues. The way he invites international fighters to Chechnya for promotional events, showcasing them on social media like they're visiting an exotic resort rather than a dictatorship. Imagine UFC stars posing with Kadyrov while trying to ignore the armed guards in the background. It's quite a sight. Regardless of all these, whether you love him or hate him, and let's be real, it's mostly hate, Kadyrov has hacked the art of merging sports and politics and has managed to turn MMA into a geopolitical weapon. It's bizarre, it's terrifying, and it's kind of genius if you're into evil masterminds. We can't wait to see how this drama unfolds. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to enjoy more similar content. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how Kadyrov is wielding his influence over the world of MMA down in the comments. And until next time, keep those gloves up.